Welcome to the Pinkie and the Ben
It's not
podcast.
The name. No, it's
Yeah.
it's still not. It's still not the name.
I just coined it in. It's good.
It's still not the
good.
name.
No? Okay.
No, naming something doesn't. You can't like walk up to a child and be like, "Your name is Phil." You know, it doesn't work that way.
Hey Tony, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah,
What's going on?
It's not my.
I'm pretty.
not the name of my child.
Does.
What are you doing?
I mean, I think it does. I mean,
I want to see you try that. I want to see you just walk up to a child and be like,
"Hey, how you doing? What's up, Stephanie? How you?"
Right.
What? Hey.
Right. I love when people name their animals like a human name, like Doug or something like that, like Doug the dog.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
My grandma named her cat.
Jason.
It was brilliant. It was Ponce de Leon. After
after the Spanish
guy
he was looking for the fountain of youth.
Yeah. But it was Ponce de Leon, not Ponce de Leon.
Oh, I see what she did there.
Yeah, it was a nice little pun. It was good.
Yeah.
But I like that he had like a surname to the whole thing. And it was so formal.
Did he
You
have?
had to like bow to the cat. Like
Right. It's like a little conquistador.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does she shorten that?
Pounce.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Pounce.
Just by itself.
Just Pounce.
Every time she's like, Pounce de Leon, where are you?
Sir Pounce
Yeah.
de Leon.
Yeah.
Can you please direct?
Yeah, that would be extreme.
You only get the full name when you're angry. Like when moms are angry, they get the full name.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that is true. Yeah.
So speaking of names, I would like to introduce Luap.
Mm. Come
I
on.
already forgot the title.
Oh,
Shit.
You know it.
Damn it.
You know it.
The God.
There you go.
Oh,
The omniscient.
It was supposed to be all the God.
The
There you
omnipotent.
The Luap the God
There you go.
is present.
I am.
He has graced us with his presence.
Absolutely.
Man,
I love being here,
You
though.
even have your own soundtrack now.
I do.
That was your sound.
That was your sound.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was sick.
Yeah.
We gotta change that.
My
That's
sound.
not my vibe.
That's not your vibe.
We gotta change.
I got
that.
4 options.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, would you
Alright,
prefer
yeah.
like?
Oh yeah, nah. That's yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like I walked out
Wait.
and tripped.
Let's try that. Luap the God.
Okay. I appreciate
And you
that.
can kind of like remix it. I don't know.
Just a little
I'm
bit.
trying.
It's not bad. That was like, what would that audience be doing? Could you imagine that audience if they were trying to like clap like that?
All the time, their hands would just like fall apart.
I would just want people to hug when I come out. Like
Okay.
everybody just hug when I come out.
Silence.
Don't clap for me.
Everybody
Just,
just
hug. Just
There's
give
no way
love.
to do that,
Okay.
like in a way that's loud.
I don't want it to be loud. I want it to be quiet. Come out, it's quiet, and I just see the audience just hugging each other.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful to see.
Yeah, that's
I
amazing.
found
How
a
do
way.
you start that then? So like, okay, so I'm going to introduce you, and everybody just like gathers together and they start
You
hugging.
just see.
And then no
Everybody
one's allowed to look at the stage. And then after the
Don't
hug's
look at
over,
me.
you look back, there's Luap.
Yeah, don't look
Okay.
at me. Exactly. Just hug, love, back rubs. You sit down, and I'm right there,
Bam.
present.
And just tears are forming like immediately.
There you go.
You're just like
There you
a
go.
hallmark moment.
Well, I mean, God has now presented all themselves.
Yeah.
I'm trying to use the correct pronoun.
Think about the power that you would have if you could just walk in a room and everyone would just hug.
Just
They don't even know what they're doing.
That would be
Yeah.
a good superpower.
Exactly.
They
We
could-
haven't talked about superpowers, but we should talk about superpowers sometime.
Yeah,
And that would be a dope superpower.
I feel like we're talking about that now.
No.
Okay.
No, I like the topic that we're going to talk about.
What is the topic?
Um,
You forgot. You forgot. You don't even like the topic. You just want to mention it.
I do.
I knew you forgot.
I just forget the words. Now you've got me all nervous. I'm on the spot and I'm super nervous.
Your hands are sweaty.
That's because we're in a 200-degree room.
Vomit on your sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. It is 200
Not
degrees
only
in here.
is God here in the room with us,
And we're not hugging because of
we're
this
not-
table.
tables.
What do you do? Luap, what do you do? Like you come in the room, there's tables.
You should just be at peace when I come.
You just jump across the table and
It's
hug.
a table.
yeah.
Magnetized.
And you know what? You're right. It would probably end up being total chaos because everybody would freak out and wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
How do I hug the person across the room?
Right.
Am I supposed to be my neighbor?
Yeah, you're right.
You know,
You're
that
right.
person has got like a touching phobia.
Yeah,
I have to
you're
air
right.
hug them.
Yeah,
That was the
yeah.
worst thing in 2020. I bought a car recently and the guy just wanted to hug. He wanted to like shake my hand so bad. And at the end, like he just did
Yeah,
like this,
air-
you know,
air
like he had constipation or had to like run. I would totally shake your hand, but like he didn't know what to do with himself. And like, you know, I get air hugs from people that are like, that's not the same thing.
No,
it's
I had a
not.
guy
Air
who came
hugging
in
is
for
weird.
business, and it was the same thing. He came in, and I was like, "Oh, I can't touch your hand."
Just rejection.
Yeah.
So,
And you just stare.
so
Like,
many people are just depressed because of that. Just that alone just sent that man into
Seriously?
depression.
Yeah.
Just like, oh no, I can't.
It's
Like,
just
that's the
hard
one
to-
thing he
yeah.
was looking for from you, and
Yeah.
you couldn't
And
give
I'm
it to
like,
him.
I can't
Yeah.
touch you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The one thing that man was looking for from you,
a
you
handshake.
reject.
I rejected him.
Yeah.
Society forced me to reject him.
Oh
Poor
man.
guy's
'Cause you know they
business
want
day
it.
was bad.
I mean, people come in and they want a hug, and the people who don't let you hug them are the people who want it the most.
No,
You know.
yeah, I need it absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and when
it's
it breaks through,
terrible.
though, when you break through that with people, like I had a patient where for years she wouldn't hug me, and now when she comes in, she always hugs me. I had one patient where she said after I hugged her the first time, she's like, "Don't ever do that again." When she sent me that via email, it wasn't like inappropriate. I just gave her a hug because I love people. And so what I told her was, I will do that again, but I want that to be at a time where you invite me in. But
No.
I would, but
Do
we,
not accept your
but we
email.
all,
I just don't accept your email, your presence.
Oh
I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah. So
He said, "No, I am gonna do it again."
because
You
it's
do
like
accept
connection
this
of a
hug.
heart. It wasn't like a force. You will accept this hug. As I was saying that, I realized like that's one step away from saying, and I have this chloroform rag, and I got this van.
Don't worry. Everything will
This
be
is
okay.
happening right now.
Everything will be okay.
We are going to hug.
You know? It is the like that right there.
Oh.
Is the instant
Wait.
panic button.
I have a question. Wait.
Yeah.
wait. You responded this through email, right?
Through email.
That's even crazier.
Right, because there's documentation.
Exactly.
Your Honor, you can see right here in the
Like,
cease and
you
desist
typing
letter.
that out, you didn't think about that. Like, no. I'll do it again.
I worded it differently. I didn't be like,
It's what
it wasn't like a hard stop, like no, period. I will do that again. Exclamation point, question mark. Emoji.
I needed that laugh.
So what
That's
happened was-
insane.
I said, no, I will, because I think that we all need to be embraced and hugged and loved.
Mhm.
But I welcome you to invite me in when the time is right. And a month later, after a session, she said to me, I'm ready for a hug. And I hugged her. And then she started coming to meditation. And she would come to meditation. She'd make a beeline as soon as it ended. And she'd just be out. And then she started sticking around longer. She started hugging people at the end. And then she started introducing people in the meditation. Oh, welcome. I've been here for a while. This is so-and-so. And she became like, but it's because she couldn't receive the love. And she got pulled into it. And eventually, like people, they back off because they've been hurt before. And sometimes that hug means more. Like it's been used as a way to get in somewhere else. I just wanted to love her. And she eventually understood that that's all I wanted from her, was to connect my heart. And she let go at that point. But yeah, wouldn't that have been badass if I would have been like, hell no. In fact,
it
where
already
are
is
you right
badass.
now? I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you with a hug.
Yes. No, I mean, I think that you have a really good point with it. I mean, it is super important that people do, because it's the element of breaking people outside of their box. So how do you get outside of the box? Of course, I don't want to know what's bad for me. I don't want to test these limits. I don't want to step outside of that stuff. So I'm going to be like, no, don't do anything that's weird to me.
Mhm.
So that way I don't have to grow. But then that's exactly the steps that I need to take to grow.
Absolutely.
So you're offering that guidance, that availability to say, here, this is good for you. This is going to help you. It's here when you want it. Let's hopefully give you a path that you see that this is beautiful.
To get to your inner truth,
To my
the topic of today's podcast.
See, that's why I was
It
testing
all
you.
works back way.
I was testing
It's,
you.
it's the Tao. It's the flow of all things. Inner truth. Yeah. So let's do something kind of on topic. What is your guys' inner truth? What do you guys think of when you think of inner truth?
I'm gonna let Luap field this one first. He's our guest today.
I'm
So-
sorry, I'm playing with my mic. It's a production habit. I know. I'm trying not to touch things.
But that's getting to your inner truth.
Yeah, this is my inner truth. My inner truth is I like to produce. I like to create. I like to be. I'm learning how to be alive. First time in my life. So, my inner truth is me, my existence,
Yeah.
and knowing that has meaning. It truly does mean something.
I like that
When
it's-
most of my life it never did.
I like the statement that you had said that you're learning to be alive for the first time. That's a really important understanding in oneself, and like how you became aware that you can say that statement, and that you feel that you are saying that statement in truth is really wonderful, and that I think is like really important for people to get to that point in their life where they can say that aspect, So what makes you feel like you're doing that today and you're doing a better job of being true to yourself?
Just that's a really good question. First off, to answer that, I would say the best thing that I could give you is being able to hear my name for the first time and being able to recognize it, right? For my name to mean something to me. That's something that I've been dealing with most of my life. It's not always feeling like I never truly had a name. Not existing, not being here, not being, a person, not being a being, just nothing, So with that comes trials and tribulations and struggles and trauma and all these other things, these lessons that I had every opportunity to learn from. And in some cases I did. Majority of the time I felt myself repeating the same things and not taking those lessons and carrying on with them. So I got to a place one day where I was just, I don't know, I was just, I would really like to say reminded versus woken up, but I was just reminded of who I was.
Right.
Because that's something I had been asking for the longest time. Like, who am I? Who?
Well, and wouldn't that theoretically be something that is always there reminding us who we are, right? When you're born and when you start with the journey that you make your first steps. I mean, there's people around there to coach you potentially, but you still made those first steps. When you created your first dream as a child, I mean, I don't even remember my first dream, right? But you create your first dream. You did. No one, not even your areas of influence and the things that are around you, even though like, your parents might give you a GI Joe and say, oh, well, you're a boy, so therefore you have to have a GI Joe, and therefore you're going to play with a GI Joe. I don't think that your first dream even gives two shits about that. So that is that piece that the moment you start breathing life into existence, you are creating that existence. And then you're taught societal things. Then you're taught what is happening around you. You are taught to behave or express these types of things. And getting back to what you feel is the inner you, your inner truth, is that original truth that potentially might have been your first couple dreams, your first imagination of what you thought was possible when you started conceiving that stuff before you potentially even talk. Because I wouldn't think that we don't dream before we can speak. We can dream way before we can speak. So you're spending all this time dreaming before you can communicate. It has to live in there. It has to be that piece that says, this is that manifestation of what I believe that I am,
Yeah, the inner truth is your inner light.
Yeah.
You talked about the G.I. Joe example, and you think about how you handle a child with a toy, and a child may or may not want to play with it. They're saying yes and no. Life is not necessarily a binary, but you think about like how computers are like ones and zeros.
Right.
Everything in every moment you're saying yes or no to. And everything you're saying yes or no to is really your inner truth. I think that got into something with my partner recently. where she was talking about living her truth. And from that, she was saying, um, well, it led to something where if you aren't being true to people around you and the world around you, then you're living a lie and you're living suppression. And it actually chokes out your light and makes you tired, makes you hurt. So you start listening to what's opening you up, what's bringing joy, what's bringing expansion. And then you start treating everything. I started treating everything like I was speaking to God directly in everything I do, because everything is a reflection of me. So if I say something to you and it's not being true, if I'm saying something to you, it's not being true, you're carrying that as a consciousness within yourself. And it becomes this tangled web where I'm trying to live all these different half-truths, not knowing who I am. And it'll always come back and reflect. It'll come back as suppression. It'll come back as being closed off, pain. But when I start living that truth in everything I do, like I've had to tell people uncomfortable things this year. Last couple of years, just sit down and have a conversation with somebody and say something I don't want to say. And every time I do, I'm free. And every time I do from compassion, they love me all the same. Like I haven't confronted anyone in a long time, but it's that inner light, right? It's that I always show people like the rheostat on the wall. You lying to yourself all the time becomes like a dimmer, you know, and then you actually speaking your truth and living your truth out loud, like you do so well, or like you're doing with your production, becomes something that magnetizes people, you know, brings more light. Light seeks light. Yeah.
Um, what's been really fun to learn myself on inner truth. So speaking of relationships,
Sure.
I've been working a lot with my primary partner, and we've been trying to develop skills to communicate with each other. And the inner truth between that skill is really interesting. We've come to find that our inner truth of each individual person, right? And when you protect it and you put this wall around it and you try to make yourself stronger because of everything that's gone on in your life, right? You are adding a layer of a lie. You're adding a layer of perception. You're adding a layer of, and in the metaphor, life is an onion, right? So we are onions by all means, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the inner truth is the core of that, right? And all of these layers are things that we've added to that inner truth. And when we've been working on our exercises to communicate with one another, we've been trying to get to the inner truth that is who we are trying to speak to the other person
At the core.
at the core,
Sure.
right? But you had to take away past relationships and you had to realize, wow, I've been talking to you like you've been my exes. And then you have to take away the layer that is like society or expectations. Man, I expected you. You're a woman. I expect you to act like a woman. Whoa, no, that wasn't true. I have to take that layer away. That was something I was taught. Or, there's this piece that, I really like blue and wait, no, maybe I don't like blue. And I just thought that I always did. So now I got to take that layer away.
Yeah.
And so you're unveiling these layers and you're exposing that truth. And you're trying to then you tell that person, okay, get to that core, which is very frail, which is very raw and innocent, and you try to let your lover in so that way they can experience that, and you have to feel very safe to just experience that in itself. And me and this partner, we've had a really turmoil moment where it really stressed our relationship quite a lot, and now we are building that blocks. We've stripped away a lot of those layers, and hopefully we need to strip away maybe even more layers.
I'm hoping so, because you probably eventually going to end up in the bedroom.
That's what the hope of it's going to be, is you get to get naked, and then you can offer yourself to your person in both the metaphysical way and the physical way.
It's an interesting thing though, because you think about stripping away layers, and you think about like when you're naked with a partner, you can't be more vulnerable in life than that. Any fold of skin, any scar, any blemish is seen. Like we cover ourselves in our shame.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're truly naked with somebody, like that's the power of having a strong partner, is they become a strong mirror, and you can be so vulnerable with them, and they can love you in those places of vulnerability. and you can get your inner truth. Yeah.
What experiences have you found that has been um, elevating to your journey to become more of Luap and discovering yourself and where your name fits you and everything like that? What
Being
layers have you taken away?
being a father.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big layer.
Yeah.
That's a big layer.
Yeah, being a father. It's I use I use my the mirror that my children are is the mirror that I get to look at myself. So I grew up as myself, but now I get to raise myself.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow, that's
Yeah.
super powerful actually.
yeah, so
That's a really powerful statement.
so all the places where I never healed, I can heal them and I can reinforce them and heal them at the same time because I'll be able to recognize it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I use them to raise myself once again.
Especially
And that's
as,
how I'm using that to heal myself.
yeah, especially as you recognize more of yourself. I
The
think
inner,
that's
inner child.
challenge
Yeah.
number one is I mean, and especially now in today's age where we have so many more blatant obvious options, and it's not just, back in the 50s, back in the 30s, where it was just, man, woman, survive, that's what it was, depression, these type of things. Now we have all of these options and we could say, okay, this fits me more, so now I can carve out who I am more precisely, and then now I can offer that education, that intelligence, that emotion to my children, and getting that opportunity to give that to them speaks volumes to me. I really appreciate that point of view, being a father myself.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think about like ancestry, like how we're like ripples within a pond, and how you'll see things that are passed down through generations. Not just physical traits, but also emotional traits too, emotional wounding, emotional scarring. I've used the metaphor of dominoes that fall, right? So one domino hits another domino, knocks it over. But I see these intrepid individuals, and that's what you're representing right now. Intrepid individuals where they become the domino that doesn't fall. Maybe you didn't get something that you needed when you were younger, but you start having compassion for people that raised you and the best that they could do, or their own inner wounding that they hadn't fully healed. And then through your children and then through your interactions with your relationships, you're becoming the domino that doesn't fall. You're not necessarily doing what was done before. You're recognizing through your consciousness or through your awareness or through your heart a different way. I mean, we're always, the crazy thing is the mirror looking back to us is always us. The person looking back to us is always us in some way. You talked about the layers within the onion. One layer is projection, right? So the first thing you see within someone is projection. And I've done that with so many people throughout my life and I didn't realize it. And I've had that done with me. I went through something this last year and I became the projection of all my friends. I became, the 40-year-old man who was going through divorce. And then for one of my friends, that's when her father got divorced from her mother. So she was projecting onto me a wounding that she hadn't healed. I started noticing people projecting based upon their own visions, their own versions of what divorce was. And yet the person that I was separating from, I wasn't separating love. I was moving out of a container of marriage. But it was something that I was doing because I was moving in a different direction. They were moving in a different direction as well. But it was never done without love. But I got to see how the projections were and how one of my favorite quotes of all times is from Rumi, and I say it all the time, but I'll say it anyways. God's mirror broke into a million pieces. We each picked up a piece of that mirror, looked into it, and we called it the truth. We're all taking a fraction of the universe, and we're looking at it as a reflective pool. As the mirror becomes more refined, we're actually seeing God, universe, love, self in all people, and we're extending it outward.
I just realized that I think that I see Luap in every one of those mirrors now.
I do.
I mean, being that he's God,
Well, he's got it on his T-shirt.
I know.
Yeah,
I see. I'm just a palm tree.
It's Luap in every one of these fragments.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel that there's a million fragments of mirrors out there all showing you?
Hey man, I'm relatable to everybody.
And now that complication of the hug is even more. So anytime that they see a reflection of Luap in the mirror, they have to hug. It's going to stop traffic someday. People are just going to be like, I looked in the mirror. I see Luap.
Yeah.
It's time to hug again.
It's gonna break systems
With the millions of
it
people
is.
watching this at some point.
Yes.
Exactly.
Please
Everybody
don't
needs a hug.
operate machinery while
Yes.
you're watching this video.
Yeah, don't do that.
And if you are, don't look at Luap.
That's true.
Yeah.
Or maybe they could hug with the machine. So like if they're using the crane, they could make the cranes hug it'd probably be terrible.
You know what? That'd be the ultimate God moment is when you get machines to hug.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You broke through the AI.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I mean, what was it? Kasparov? Not Kasparov. Who's the guy that was doing like the theories on robots? Isaac Asimov? I don't remember.
No clue. Guys
but
making theories.
yeah. Anyways, they were talking about
I
the
mean, I think
different
that's
rules.
us
It was
three right
based
now.
upon iRobot. You guys saw iRobot?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Will Smith.
Will Smith.
Yep.
Yeah, but it was based upon these rules behind robots and how they would become sentient eventually, and they would try to take us over. That's an interesting point because robots taking over are actually, they would be a mirror for humans, right? But they'd be mirrors for humans when they're operating solely from the mind or from their mental will, with devoid of heart. So getting robots to hug would actually be the solution to that robotic issue. Develop robots with hearts.
Mm-hmm.
But man, for a long time, has been a robot without a heart. You think about war, you think about machinery, you think about industry, corporations. You know, they're basically what man can produce when you're not necessarily incorporating the heart. And you can see then the effects upon the earth, the environment. You know, by solely looking at it as a resource rather than trying to work in cooperation with it. I think industry in the future, they talk about like terraforming cities and having like nature actually interspersed with our everyday life, but working in harmony with nature, taking technologies and interspersing it in what we do, but not having it be an and/or proposition. For a long time, agriculture was actually a war with nature. You think about pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. You don't have to grow plants that way.
Yeah.
You can grow it in such a way. All the area that we need to grow all the food on the planet could be the size of Texas. That's all that we need. That's all the arable land that we need. But we go to war with everything. So if we were able to insert heart into corporations, not in a way where they're doing nonprofit things to be seen a certain way, but truly doing it from the heart, or incorporating heart into all things, what we need to do is plaster your picture everywhere.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm leading to. I'm just getting to that point.
Yeah.
In my business, I'm going to have a poster of Luap, and it's going to be like the little motivational kitty poster.
Yeah.
And it says, "It's time for your hug."
Yeah, I like that. That's gonna be my thing.
It's going to be Buddy
That's my
Jesus.
campaign. I'm campaigning it.
It's going to be Buddy Jesus.
Yeah.
But it's going to
Yeah.
be your face doing
My
that.
face.
I
Yeah.
like Buddy
Time
Jesus.
for your hug.
Yeah.
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 How do you feel about being a campaign for hugs?
I think it's great. Name a campaign that's been greater than Campaign for Hugs.
I maybe campaign for sex.
This one step further.
Yeah.
You get the hug plus.
Yeah.
It's the internal hug.
Yeah.
Is that what you're calling it? The internal hug?
I mean, that's what a blowjob is. Is it a hug?
I
with
gotta
your
bleep your
mouth?
mic again. I'm just gonna have you be like that one solid sound. That's all you're gonna be.
Tone.
Why does he
Over.
sound like that tone? I'm gonna make you the Apple sound. That C note or whatever they have there. Yeah.
See, this is why we need a third person now, so that way
Yeah. Perfect.
someone
balance.
else can either beat me up and squish my, I don't know.
Squish your inner hug? I don't know what you're talking about now.
I don't know.
I'm gonna use that though.
My inappropriate.
I'm gonna be like, can I give you an inner hug? No. Can I give you an outer hug?
Can I give you?
Just work your way.
But that's. Can I give you a mouth hug? I mean, I'm telling you.
I had a theory about this recently. All right, we're gonna jump. Let's
super
jump.
awkward.
If we're
I
gonna
love
jump,
it.
let's jump. All right.
I love it.
Okay, let's go a little dirty. All right, so sex is actually non-dualism, right? You take masculine, you take feminine. I'm just gonna do it with my hands. I'm not gonna do it with my hands. You guys know whatever you're doing. All right.
Right,
you don't
right.
need my fingers to show you,
Right.
unless no. Okay, no takers.
Yeah.
All right. It's dissolution of duality. It really doesn't matter what genders are actually pairing, because oftentimes one will take predominant masculine form, one will take predominant feminine form. It's just yin and yang.
Yeah.
What we conceive of as, we all contain masculine and feminine within us. Within Chinese medicine, they say the right side is masculine, left side is feminine. We all contain masculine and feminine. Balancing the two sides actually brings strength. So sex is actually breaking forth duality, right? It's creating unity, oneness. It's actually a very sacred, holy act. But you dissolve masculine and feminine, you become one, right? But I got thinking recently, as you go higher up the chakras and higher up the body, you're actually getting closer to the crown and closer to your higher centers, right? Your mental centers where you connect with the universe. The tongue, when you think about kissing, like you're actually masculine and feminine simultaneously. Think about that. You're actually going inside their body, and you're going as equals, and you're actually moving past duality altogether.
Yeah,
It's kind of a wild idea.
No, it totally makes sense. I like that
Yeah.
analogy a lot because, you get penetration, then penetration towards you, vice versa, back and forth. That sharing of entering one space and that intimacy that exists in that moment, which is really funny because in that level, there's a higher level of intimacy that potentially could be offered because not only can I enter your space, your environment,
Mm.
but you can also now enter my space and my environment. And we keep it so casually. Like, oh, it was just a kiss.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
A
yes,
mouth-
it
a
was
mouth hug.
but a mouth hug,
Mhm.
So it really does have some really bigger concepts behind that ability to it.
Can I be honest with you?
Yes.
When you said penetrate, my butt tightened. I don't know why, but it was like reflexive. I wasn't even thinking about it. Like every time you said penetrated, I just kept on clenching and clenching and clenching.
Oh man.
And I felt it.
Okay. Here we go. Here we go.
All right.
So this is why we're taking Luap's picture and
Yes.
putting it everywhere.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because otherwise I'm going to walk around and if I have flatulence, it's going to sound like a whistle.
But what's really great about inner truth to this is really applicable because what I've been experiencing myself with even my partner, right, has been that duality between masculine and feminine roles that I have been able to discover as I've pulled back my veils, unpeeled my onion a little bit more and more. But I have learned that I have those dualities within myself. And then I've got a really good partner that brings and complements each one of those masculine and feminine moments, depending on how we respond to each other. And it's amazing to see during that sexual exploration time frame that we have where it becomes I become more masculine or I become more feminine. And that ball becomes this evolving emotional movement in the bedroom. And it changes from moment to moment. It may not just be like, okay, here's my static role. This is what I'm going to be this whole time. This is what I'm going to do. And here's how I feel. And then we flow through that movement. But we both ebb and flow now. And she's even picked up different things herself because she's discovered, way more intimacy on different layers that are important to her as well.
Yeah.
So that duality is really important,
Well, I'm recognizing that in all of us.
Yeah.
We had a conversation earlier about just kind of softening to life, being able to soften. And you were one of I mentioned this before, you were one of my quintessential teachers because I had a hard time hugging men before. But when I hugged James, I could feel his heart and I could feel it opening. And now I hug, I had a patient who came in yesterday. He lost his wife about 6 months ago. It was a beautiful session, like an hour-long visit. I just spent 40 minutes with letting him talk. I'm a chiropractor by trade, but he just needed to talk. So we talked and he cried and he expressed what he needed to express. And he had terrible experiences with chiropractors before, but since I work on his family, he came in to see me. And I worked on him for not that long. But when he stood up at the end, I hugged and held him. And he just thanked me. But it's because I had softened and realized that me hugging and connecting with a man on that level didn't make me any less of a man. In fact, it made me more of a being. It actually brought me to my inner truth of what I am, which is a being of love.
Yeah.
But I think it's brokering a peace with masculine and feminine. I think that's actually what we're doing within society now too, where people are not wanting to, like, I'm non-binary is what someone might say, or transgender. It's like, really what they're saying is, I don't want you to identify me. My inner truth is not what you're labeling me as. My inner truth is not related to race, politics, sexual orientation, anything external to my inner being. My inner being is my inner being. There are times where I'm very masculine and times where I'm what you might consider more feminine. Yeah. Just as far as like yielding and loving and intuitive and soft. And there's times where I'm like physical and hard and, sometimes assertive, sometimes aggressive. Sometimes I'm like taking charge. But we're all those things, right?
Yeah. What about you, Luap, in your journey and discovering of who you are Have you noticed your duality roles pick up? Do you feel like you were conditioned for a role for so long?
Oh, absolutely.
And then now, so yeah, so how does that journey feel for you with this discovering of who you are as your person?
Liberating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, who I was conditioned to be, I was never able to recognize for myself. I never understood it for myself.
Yeah,
And no one
right.
ever made sense for myself.
Yeah.
Maybe for them, but for me, it never made sense.
You became the projection.
Which is why I couldn't recognize myself, which is why I didn't know who I was, which is why I didn't feel as if I was existing,
Yeah.
you know. Because I was put in a position to take the G.I. Joe toy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
position I wanted.
Yeah.
I was put in, excuse me. So, and I like G.I. Joe.
Yeah. And it
It wasn't
wasn't something
mine.
that was familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
Exactly.
it didn't fit all the pieces.
No, not at all.
Right.
Not at all. So, yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. It's
Well,
been
because what's
liberating.
interesting is, we are a puzzle, right?
Mm.
Just like the fragments of the mirror thing
Right.
fit really well, and you'll see yourself in all of those fragments.
Right.
You're a puzzle, right? So if I just give you one puzzle piece, that's not the whole picture.
Right.
Neither is 2 puzzle pieces. Neither is 6 puzzle pieces. So if the G.I. Joe was your one puzzle piece, and it did have a place, and it does have a piece that fits, where are the other 7 pieces?
Mm-hmm.
And what do they mean to you? And how did you discover? I mean, that's just it. How do you discover those 7 other pieces?
Right.
When someone tells you, oh, well, you have a mirror, it is reflective. You can see something in this. This is, look at this truth. But that's all, that's the skill you were given. Here's your fragment of your mirror. That's your truth. And that's who you are.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah. So what I felt I did was I took my fragments were scattered. My fragments were literally taken. My mirror was broken, taken, thrown out, and scattered, and I had to go find them. That was the journey aspect. Once I found those fragments, I brought those fragments together to see how the mirror looked. Once I had the mirror constructed together, I built my own mirror for myself.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
To mirror the mirror that was broken.
Right.
Right. But I still hold on to this mirror more so in a frame to remind me of what I accomplished so that I can create this brand new mirror.
Which is the Luap of today.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No cracks, no nicks, no nothing. It's just portal mirror, just a full clear mirror. I wipe it every day. I Windex, we keep it clean. It's great. But I do keep this mirror because at the end of the day, to recognize, and that's going back to my children thing, to recognize, them bringing their fragments together. Now I can recognize it and I'll be able to guide them in a way that I was guided away from.
Yeah.
So I can guide them too when I was guided from.
Yeah.
Period. So, because I don't want to interrupt their journey. They're their own.
Yeah.
In every aspect, they're still their own. But my job is to make sure that they realize, hey, when they fall and they look up, they'll see me every time. They know, hey, I'm right here. I can pick you up. Yeah, obviously. And I want to, being a father, that's the trippy part. Being a father, yeah, I really want to pick you up, but let me see if you can get up on your own. If you can't, okay, I got you.
Right.
But I know you can because you're strong enough.
You know what you just described? You just described God.
Mm.
That conceptive force that
You
we
just
have.
described Luap?
We just described Luap. No, for real. I mean, to borrow a quote from.
I hear that everybody else likes that.
There's just. I just
so
picture people in a
profound.
hall just like,
That's it.
Can I stop applauding?
But I
No, you
can't-
might
I
push the
can't
button
use
again.
that. I gotta push the-
My
I gotta
hands
push
are
the
so
hug
bad.
button.
They're bleeding.
Yes.
Please let me stop. No, if he pushes a button, we need to make the sound.
That's right.
And there's just a guy doing this forever. He's like, can I just stop doing this already? No, like to borrow a quote from Fight Club, our parents are our models for God. And they take it a darker tone because if our fathers failed us, what does it tell us about God? That's the finishing of the quote. Our fathers are models for God. If our fathers failed us, what does it tell us about God? God is absent. God never wanted us. God never loved us, right? Now that's the quote from the movie, but that's not the objective truth. So to your children, You are the sacred masculine form of God, and your wife or your partner is the sacred feminine form of God. And when they look up to you, they're not seeing Father, they're seeing God the Father. And what you're doing is the very embodiment of what we conceive of as God. People talk about that with like footprints, that famous Christian allegory of like walking on the beach, and there were two sets of footprints, and I only saw one set of footprints at a certain point, and the finishing of that was the point where you were struggling and God was carrying you, right? So that's what you're describing with the child. Child's having a hard time getting up, and you walk with them with the two footsteps. You walk side by side. You let them grow into the man, the woman, the non-binary, the being that they're becoming. You're not defining it, but whenever they need to be lifted, you're picking them up and you're carrying them for a period of time and you're setting them back down.
Absolutely.
I think that's part of the best part about the options that we have today that we're giving everybody. And I know that it's super confusing because this stage that we're in is a really big transition stage, going from this single identity binary protocol, male, female, that's what's expected, and then we had, the what ifs of when the gay movement came into play, and it's no longer just male, female. There's this gay aspect that potentially is possible. And now we've moved even further, which is this non-definitive identity. And
like sexual fluidity or any
it's
or non-binary or anything
becoming
else.
so super open. And the best part about that whole experience is it's letting us to define the rules for our children and the potentials for our children to now even understand more about who we are. And it's hard because when you're faced with what was, you have to go through that revelation, and you have to realize that that's not my inner truth. That's not my feeling of who I am. So discovering your inner truth and then being able to present it to the world is the journey of, I think, today's culture is discovering inner truth, discovering what is possible, saying that we've shed these lines that were so hardly drawn so long ago, and now you get to pick from what is your truth, and then present that to your world, present that to your children, present that to your partner, and then see how that can manifest your life and what kind of happiness you bring from that, because I'm assuming you're a lot happier today with who you are as Luap today than you were before that revelation started to come into play.
Oh yeah, I'm in love with myself now. Yeah.
And just think of the journey that you went into. How bad was the crash before the revelation? One thing that people also get discouraged with is they're like, oh, I feel so low, or I feel so down, or I'm so depressed. And they're like, oh, I got to do things to not be depressed. And that's a distraction technique. And that's not good, because as you're getting more of this depressed, trying to put on these clothes that aren't yours, as you're trying to be the person that's not you, the unhappiness that you're experiencing is that element of pushing you to just break and realize that, hey, you should be something else. And then there's that shift, that transition that kind of comes into play. And I'm speaking from my personal revelation of when I was facing society, when I was facing public views, and when I was facing what my parents had put upon me. And then the difference between that time, how I was lost, how I felt broken, how I felt defeated. And I was, at that moment, that was my weakest, but that was also the point where I was the most open. And when I was like, wow, wait, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to be me. I've stripped away all of this stuff. I'm going to push all of that stuff away from me. I'm not going to look at what society and everybody else is telling me to do. I'm going to look at what I'm telling me I should do. And I'm going to start out with the things that I like. So then that was where I found my voice. And I said, this is who I am. This is who James will be. This is me. And then that's what I started speaking from that moment forward. And that I was lucky. I feel very lucky. That happened to me 20 years ago. I feel that I've had a very full life doing this, because it gave me that understanding, that freedom. and the defining power that allowed me to build my happiness my way, you know? And I bet that's what you're experiencing some of that stuff now, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And it's great. It's absolutely great.
And how was that journey like when how difficult was some of those pieces and how dark was that future? What was there? And then that shift, I mean, how did that transition feel to you? And then what allowed you to potentially find the you in that moment?
The identifying it part for me was easy, but the like you mentioned, the darkness, going through that was the hard part for me.
Yeah.
Um, I would say more so because I've always had a fear of darkness.
Okay.
So applying that to my life and really the not knowing has never scared me.
Okay.
It's literally been the darkness.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of the unknown. I'm just afraid of this thing right here that I can't see.
That there is nothing.
Period.
Yeah.
Right. So that was difficult. That was very difficult for me. And I think there are still fragments of that where I'm learning to love myself within that. More so like a healing of that, you know. Because I believe a lot of the scars that I've had from my life are completely gone now. You know, they've literally just, like, the scars never existed.
Yeah.
But I happen to look sometimes and I still notice some of those scars. And those are the things that I'm reminded of, you know, that I went through. But that was the hardest part for me. And then comes the, you know, you break out of that darkness and you come forth into, you know, stepping into the healing portion. And that's where I'm learning. That's where, you know, everything that you were saying to me really resonated with me and it made me make sense. I was actually holding back tears because you were saying things that I've said to myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, you confirmed a lot of things for me that I already knew, you know,
Right.
just being reminded. And that's the process I'm in right now, is being reminded of a lot of things. You know, like you were saying, our dreams, the first dreams we ever had. Well, I don't remember that. But now I'm starting to feel like I can remember those first dreams that I was actually having.
Yeah.
You know, as a baby.
Things that speak to you that
Period.
that
Yeah.
you never understood why it spoke to you.
Exactly.
Like it's completely undefined. This calling, this whisper that you never heard for a long time. You know, I think that we really blatantly put on earmuffs and a blanket and a hat and maybe put yourself in a cement room so you couldn't hear those whispers. And then as you've unlocked the door and as you shrouded those layers, those whispers became a little bit more prevalent. And that maybe that's part of the searching that exists with our journey as growing up and then dealing with that. It'd be nice if we could cultivate that from day one. I mean, that would be a beautiful world where everyone got to live that inner them from the moment they could speak it, you know?
And that's what Luap is doing with his children right now. You brought up that point, made me think of Sir Ken Robinson. He has spoken extensively about education in the world. And he talked famously about, in one of his TED Talks, talked famously about this choreographer who had choreographed such things as Cats and other major Broadway hits that had been done over time. But she was antsy in school. She had a hard time sitting still. And he said what they did, instead of putting her on attention deficit medication, because it wasn't prevalent at the time, this is like the 1960s, 1970s that she was in school, is they took her aside and one of the teachers said to her parents, she's a dancer. She can't sit still because she's a dancer. She's antsy because that's her gift. And instead of loading her with attention deficit medication and forcing her to sit still in a chair, which my belief is that no child's meant to sit in a chair for that long, enlightened countries like Finland are keeping kids in school for about 4 hours. They have better teaching metrics and better academic scores because they're actually getting the kids to integrate that into the real world and actually take what they're learning and build with it and play with it. That's how we learn, is by playing, not by thinking about it and not applying it. But he was saying in that case, imagine what the world would have had stripped away from it had she been put in a room and been forced to be something she wasn't. Instead, she got to give us some of the best choreography that we had had in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and 90s. But then you also brought up a point that got me thinking too about how, when you are in your truth, it makes you a lot nicer to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you talk about how you're in love with yourself. Well, it spills outward. When you're not in love with yourself, maybe you're in anger, maybe you're in sadness. So I know every parent has this example and they beat themselves up over it, but healing themselves is giving themselves forgiveness. But I'm sure there's been at least one moment. I've had a moment or two with kids in the office or people in general where I've lost myself. I've gotten angry because I was already in anger. And that moment I wasn't in love with myself and it spilled out, but being in love with yourself, your children get to see someone who's in love. I mean, truly, like not in love with themselves, but in love, like in the state of love.
Yeah.
And it spills outward.
Yeah.
And then the interactions are based upon it. Then you can see like how the adults around you that took things out when they were younger were not in love. They were not in love with themselves. They were not in love. They were not in the state of love. And now that spilled outward into their interactions. But with your kids, do you feel like they're more well-adjusted than you had been when you were younger? Do they feel like...
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. It's funny because conversation that I had with my parents, and I'll just use both parents. I won't single them out as parents, but I'll just say my parents. Conversation that we have frequently is my sons being too soft, quote unquote.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
And I always laugh every time they say that. Say, okay, well, they're too soft. They need to toughen up. What does that mean? Define that for me. What do you mean by toughen up? Right? You want them to be an adult. You want them to be physically stronger. You want them to be able to change a tire. You want them to pay your bills. You want them to get a job. Like, what do you mean by tough? Define tough for me in the aspect of a child.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to make any sense for me. You want them to be tougher. I want them to be children. I don't want them to be tough. I don't need them to be tough. I'm tough. And the toughness that they need is going to come from me. I need them to be a child. I need them to be children because that's an experience I did not have. So that's an experience I myself am observing. And I'm only going to gain that experience now because I wasn't able to have that through them.
Right.
So they're going to live that life, for the time that they live it. And as they get older, they'll evolve and grow and, do what children do. And then they turn to young teens and boom. And then, I'm sure they'll flock off somewhere. And that's fun. That's fantastic. I want to experience that. The toughness that they need is going to come from me.
Yeah.
And the toughness that I need comes from God. Right. So at the end of the day, it's for me, watching that experience from them is amazing because it goes right back to what I was saying. I'm raising myself through them. So I'm getting to experience. There's a lot of things in my childhood. I think that trauma's blocked out that I have a hard time remembering. Yeah. And then there's a lot of things that I, don't want to remember it at all. We don't want to remember you. Fortunately, I do. So because of that, with them, not only do I get to experience childhood, and it's more what's the one I'm looking for? It's more intentional as far as the upbringing of them and the things that they experience, their surroundings, things like that. It's more intentional. So now it's more of it's a controlled area, but it gives them more options when I didn't have as many options at all.
Yeah.
So now they have more options. So now I get to see and watch, hey, I wonder what I would have done if I had this option. Yeah. And, hey, son, what do you think about this? Do you like this thing or do you like that? Well, I don't like this thing. I don't like that thing. And children today, I can't remember what I said. And I was so happy that my son said it to me. What was it? Oh, he was playing with he was playing with something. It was a typical, what society would say, a girl's toy.
He was playing with a girl's toy.
What we would define as a girl's toy. Sure. Right? Not me, but yeah. Yep. So I asked him, I was like, hey, son, do you like this toy? Why do you like this toy? he said, "Oh, because I can use her to play with him." Da da da. I said, "Yeah, but you know, you don't care that that's a girl's toy." He said, "Daddy, just because it's a girl's toy doesn't mean I can't play with it. I mean, girls can play with boy toys and boys can play with girl toy." I was so happy when he said that.
Yeah.
I was so happy when he said
Yeah.
that, because there's no way in hell that I need to. If I'm pushing society out, why am I bringing society teachings into my child?
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I can't heal with society rules
Yeah.
or laws or
Yeah.
ideals. No, you can't.
It's old institutions. It's old ways.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. So I'm not going to suppress my son. I need to just observe to see how he functions on his own. Both of them, you know, because I have two boys. So, and the one that I really like to observe the most, that I'm really more detailed in observing, I would say, is Aiden, and that's just because of his situation. But he, when he said that to me, I was very happy. I was very, very, very happy. I was very proud, you know. So I don't need my children to be tough. I need my children to be children.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, I almost wonder if maybe the statement is offered out of fear and not offered in potentially the right direction when it comes to stuff like that. Because obviously, because we're a product of a product of a product and that type of stuff. And you know, to some extent, you know, did your parents have good intentions behind what they were trying to tell you? Potentially, but because they were teaching you based off of a left and right, a white and black, this is what we were taught of society. They didn't realize or didn't know that there were many other options. And I would like to think that the encouragement would be, I don't want you to teach them how to be tough, more of what do they need for strength.
Right.
And I think by changing the word from tough to strength, you can give them now the capacity to help offer back what they want to be strong in. Because it's not, they don't fight your battles.
Right.
They don't fight the battles that your parents offered you, and they're not going to fight those battles. And that's a short-sightedness, I think, that generations above us gave us down, that said, oh, you're going to fight my battles, so you need to be strong like me, and therefore I want you to be stronger by doing it this way. And I think that's why it was offered for you to be tough, which is also, yeah, you know, very undefined.
Right.
And it's not helpful.
Right.
And just be tougher. Okay, because there's lots of things that could apply to in lots of different ways.
Exactly.
But if you change it, you go, I would like to help you be stronger. Now, what it's going to be is, and tough may be one of those key components. You know, if it's a battle in a certain particular way and you need toughness, then that's something that you would potentially be able to offer and to be able to teach. But giving you the ability to have that open platform to say, hey, children, I'm going to help you be who your inner truth is. Help teach me how to teach you about your inner child, about your inner truth. And so by giving them the opportunity to be children, giving them the opportunity to experience life in their eyes, you are being the best assistant you possibly could. You're there to be a facilitator of their strengths. And then when you recognize them, you could say, okay, well, here's toughness because it applies to that situation, but here's softness because it applies to that situation. Here's love, here's support. Here are these types of things that I can now say, instead of just being white and black, and this is the way it needs to be, you are shedding all of those experiences, and you have been able to say, here's enlightenment, and here's how I can help you, because I'm a facilitator in that growth, you know? So I think you're doing a really good job by being very observant and very aware of that. And you're right. I think it came from you being observant in your own self, because you recognized it here.
It took that.
So then you can recognize it there.
It took that, because if I did not do that, then I would just be taking the teachings from what I was forced upon to put it right back onto them.
Yeah.
It perpetuates the cycle.
Yeah.
Right. Where people have never really gotten to their inner truth.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. In my community, in the Black community, we call it curses. And one thing my mother always like says, hey, we have to break these curses. We have to break these chains.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, well, I don't need to have a child and say they're gonna do it. Well, if I'm here, let me go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Period. Let me be tough.
Yeah.
If anything needs to be tough, let it start here. And strength. I really like that you use that strength because the way my son replied back to me, that was strength.
Yeah, it very was. He was already independent. He said he made his choice.
Period.
Even when you had repeated something that you had been taught, and that's something that you
exactly
in this example is a really good example because here your teaching was for you to be tough. Then you forgot that you were enlightening your child. So you asked him a question based on that tough response that was ingrained in you, even though it's not your primary objective. Right. Then he called you out and was like, but Dad, I'm strong. I'm strong because I can play with the toy that I want to play with when I want to play with it because it fits my needs. It fits my purpose. It fits my grand design in the dream that I'm making, in the story that I'm telling myself.
Right.
And that was super strong. And it was beautiful. And beautiful to witness in yourself that mirror, right? Because that mirrored your teachings. And that is so beautiful to get to see that.
Yeah.
So I applaud you. Wait.
There it is.
They're still doing it.
Right? All day.
I just picture this guy like his hands are bleeding and he's like
still bleeding.
He's just
crying.
like he's not even happy anymore. He's just crying and he's like, his spouse is like convulsing on the ground. It's like, everyone else is like just keeling over from exhaustion. Sweat's pouring down his face.
Dropping. Yeah.
So that guy,
and this guy's doing the same thing too.
Yeah.
He's doing the same
that guy
thing.
applauds you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, good job.
Yeah.
Good job for recognizing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, the core essence, the core beauty of what inner truth means to us and us as society. The goal to discover inner truth is that enlightenment of what you can potentially pass on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said something specifically though. You were saying, my whole life I was seeking the answer, and then I found I am the answer.
Yeah.
And that is, yeah.
Yeah. There's you guys have heard the term seeker before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual
Say it?
seeker.
Seeker. Okay.
Like spiritual seeker.
Okay.
Right.
The concept of the person who is looking for.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. So I had a revelation not that long ago. It was that the seeker needs to cease seeking. The seeker needs to become the finder.
Mm.
Right. The seeker, like you were saying before, will busy themselves, and it's not a derogatory thing. They'll busy themselves looking outside for what's already there. So it's moving inward towards that light. And any place of discomfort, just my personal belief from experience, but any place inside of us where light has not shone will come up as an external experience. It'll be a reflection point because everything's a reflection point. And then we bring our light to it and it merges together. And the curses, which is just a darkness we've carried ancestrally or as a foundational piece within society, it dissolves away. Like what's happening right now, I've been saying for some time, what's happening in the world right now, the riots and everything else that's been occurring is the curses and the shadow and the darkness coming to the light.
Yeah.
Us pushing it away, us becoming tougher, actually just hardens ourselves to the love that was always being sought, but never offered. So the strength we think of, like in the case of like a Buddha or a Christ, is to love no matter what.
Right.
That strength to love no matter what.
Right.
And is that's even to love no matter what your own weakness is too. So
to love your weakness and understand, even understand the programming. The way you acted yesterday is not the way you have to act today.
Yeah.
What you did yesterday, you can love because it was based upon old programming. If you were tough at some point and you didn't do something that you wish you had, you can love that part of yourself and not create from it again. Otherwise, you create from your pain. You create from your pain. You don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Just loving unconditionally in everything that you do. That's strength.
Well, and so I think that the biggest thing is helping let people discover the identity of what inner truth is, because that's just it. Like we become more aware of how many people are projecting and creating all of these projections. And we have lived life through the view of a projection, right?
Mm-hmm.
These experiences that were given to me because of what they were told. And then I project that upon somebody else, and I'm not giving them the inner me. And I think that that's kind of the difference is, just like you would speak to me, how you say that these things you've grown from within myself, your experiences in your life have gotten bigger because of who I am as the person that I've become.
Because you were big in places where I was playing small.
Exactly. And I want to speak the same thing to Luap here. I mean, it's I have found you to be such an attractive person in your magnitude, in your compassion, and in your reasoning, and in your enlightenment, which seeps from you indirectly. It doesn't even come from you said something to me one time and I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. You're a cool person. No, it's I think you're such an interesting individual because I feel that you welcome yourself, and therefore you have automatically welcomed me in that aspect. And I feel that from you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you on this, was because you're an influence to me. And it's nice to see somebody out there, someone else out there that's doing that. So it's neat to see your battles, your challenges, your struggles, and hopefully, offer yet another perspective of how important it is for people to need to find their inner truth, and then they can grow that, and they can grow themselves, and they can grow that emotion, those emotions, those feelings, because those are the truest ones that exist. And then you're sharing love because you love yourself.
Yeah.
And
you're in
that's
love.
it. That's the miracle of it. The inner truth helps you love you. Now you share love.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's in the truth, baby.
Yeah.
That's in the truth.
Well,
All
you
right.
two are beautiful things.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Love you guys.
So yeah, absolutely.
love you too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Luap, I love you.
I love you too, my brother.
It's
I love you
been-
too, my brother. How long we known each other now? A year?
Yeah, not that long
Yeah.
actually. It's been
been
quick,
about
but
a
it's
year.
been
Yeah.
hot and heavy, man. Passionate
And I've
lover.
known you for 2 hours and I love you.
I love you too, man.
Doesn't take any time.
Yeah, it takes no
Doesn't
time,
take-
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I love to love. That's
Yeah.
something else I've learned about myself. I do. I love to love.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if it's a good feeling, and I'm still on my journey, and I might actually, for the first time in my life, I can honestly say that I'm enjoying my journey now. When at
Yeah.
first I was confused, and confusion is something that I've never enjoyed in my life. Yoda, to quote Yoda, he talks about confusion. He says, confusion leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. And I felt like that was my entire damn life.
Yeah.
In that very same step,
Yeah.
So just being able to study myself, define myself, love myself, forgive myself. You talked about that as well, learning to forgive. That was something I struggled with. I didn't understand how that worked. Hey, how can I forgive myself?
Because you're looking for someone to forgive you
Boom.
for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Boom. Exactly.
People who haven't forgiven themselves
Exactly.
to forgive you. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the same question as far as loving myself. Well, how can I? How? Why?
Mhm.
Really? Why? I do love myself. No, I don't. Yeah, I think I do. Exactly. You just proved my point. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't. So, yeah, the journey for me, it's great, and I feel lighter, feel wiser. This thing grew on my forehead right here. I don't know what it is, but I accepted it. Literally, as soon as I have been going through this journey, this thing appeared. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm being told something.
It's your third eye.
Yeah, I'm feeling really, really good.
Just gonna get eyelashes here.
Now I just need Now I just need the sun to come a little bit more so I can get a little bit more darker.
Yeah.
Because
it's coming.
yeah.
We got summer on the way, so
Yeah, it's coming.
we're gonna see
I'm ready.
lots of sun.
Yes, I'm
Most
excited.
definitely. Yeah.
I'm
Thank you guys
excited.
for today.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Luap, for coming on.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank
To
you.
the unnamed show that I have a vote in.
I kind of like the unnamed show.
I like it. I like it. I love untitled.
We have
podcast.
released 0 of these so far.
Yeah.
They're all unlisted. I'm going to put the unlisted podcast. You know what's funny is the last one has got like 20 views now or something. Like, how the hell are people watching this? One of them has like 30
I've
views.
showed it like 18 of those 20 times.
Well, I know it's either you or me. I've shared it to my partner, and that's it.
There
Yes.
you go.
But I've been showing it to more and more people, and everyone's laughing. And you said something before, and I know I keep on trying to close, but you only create when you're feeling creative. Like, you're doing it because you want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, today, we're not forcing ourselves to have a conversation. In fact, we're having a hard time ending it because we're enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when you're creating from like love and joy and flow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not corporate. You
No.
know, it's not forced. You know, it's true. It's true. It's truth.
Inner truth.
Well, and I think that's the most
Yeah.
important about this is these are just experiences.
Period.
These are experiences of existence and happiness.
Right. We
I
talk
found
like this all the time.
happiness. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nothing has changed. Not
You know?
these the headphones and the mics. The only thing that's changed about
Yep.
our dialogue.
I
Period.
talk like this all the time.
Yeah.
I'll be out in public with
With
a
the
microphone and
headphones.
headphones on. I can't hear a word people have to say.
I like
That
this.
was good.
Oh, my hands hurt so bad. Please make it stop.
Oh, man. Okay, so Luap, the god, and
Yes.
his.
Is that it?
That-
Wait, I
yeah.
thought it was the other one.
No. This is the show start because it says
Oh.
A. So
Okay.
I don't actually know what, but this is. So we'll make the end then too.
That's so terrible. That isn't the name of our show, and that's not the sound. That's been established.
This is all
Whatever
wrong.
you heard,
This is all wrong.
we still have no name. We have no sound. We got a board with 4
No
buttons.
sound, no band, no nothing.
Right. And Luap doesn't have a sound either.
Yes.
No.
So-
yeah,
So-
I don't.
This is a separate track. So I'm gonna when you push that button, I'm just gonna make like fart
fill in
sounds.
Whatever you want.
I'm just gonna
Next
make
time
it like
I'll send you my sound. I'll send you my track that I use for my production.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
A little Luap influence.
Yeah, you love
Okay,
it. You'll like
okay.
it a lot.
Rub some love on us, Luap.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely.
And once again, Ben, I love you.
I love you too. Yeah.
you.
Love you, Luap.
Love you too, my brother.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.